Hey people, this is DJ.
And this is Ish.
And
this is
season
season 4 of
Pero
Let Me Tell You.
¿Cómo dice que dijo?
So gigante.
El mejor pretexto para quedarse en casa.
Yeah, I mean, the last year was COVID, though.
Well, that's true. That is true. So like it or not,
COVID.
man,
era
Sábado
mejor
Gigante, if
pretexto.
it was still on, would have like flourished.
No, they couldn't. They
They didn't have studio audience.
They couldn't do studio. They couldn't do the contest.
Oh, ¿quién va a ser el chacal de la trompeta?
I don't think a Zoom chacal would have been the same.
No. Well, on that note, because the chacal de la trompeta is always a good note to start. I like when they go fuera y fuera.
You know, I didn't like when he had a cave.
That was at the end.
Yeah.
Not only did he have a cave, he had like when he would put that trompeta, like a lion will come out and a lot of props.
Yeah,
a lot
it
of props.
was like by the end of Family Matters.
But we don't want fuera are our listeners.
Yes.
Welcome everybody to episode 149.
You got it. Yes. Next week is 150.
149. Hello everyone. How was your week?
Hey, I think everybody's doing all right.
Why my week was so long.
Your week was long.
My day was long. Fake Friday was really long.
You know, your Fake Friday did start like about an hour and a half earlier than mine, but it's been a long day for both of us.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, yay, let's go like on vacation on a cruise. Oh no, we can't.
No, we can't even see Escape.
Or a Discovery.
No, not even.
Remember Discovery Cruise Lines?
Of course I remember. We took one in 8th grade.
Yeah. Discovery, se las ve- what is it? Discovery
That I
Cruise
don't remember.
Lines. Discovery Cruise Lines. Yeah.
No.
And
I don't remember anything. of the
I
jungle.
remember when NCL was En el mar, la vida es más sabrosa con un crucero de NCL. Disfrute más. I don't know. Why do I remember these things?
You know, it's what makes you you.
I know, right? So, how is everybody?
I think everybody's doing all right.
So, you know what's exhausting? Let's talk about exhausting.
All right.
So, American Airlines Arena.
Oh, God.
Soon to be no more. It's going to be called, let me make sure I get the name right.
It sounds like an airport code.
Oh my God. It's going to be called FTX Arena.
Right, FTX. That's just like, oh my God, I'm flying from MIA to FTX.
It does. Like, Dallas Fort Worth is...
Like the lesser airport in
Yeah.
like Phoenix.
Yes. Like the one that... Yes, that takes the
You have to take like
bunch of carriers.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right,
yeah. That's
right,
where you got all
right.
your bunch of carriers.
So the American Airlines Arena, the iconic American Airlines Arena
Yes.
here in Miami, is going to soon be renamed FTX Arena. And FTX is
Good
like
luck. I'm still gonna call it the AAA. I'm still calling it Joe Robbie.
so the FTX is like a Bitcoin
In exchange,
something or other firm.
I don't know.
So it's going to be
Bitcoin's not a
called
real thing,
FTX
people.
Arena. So we're going to go see the Heat at the.
At the
At the
It took me a second to realize, like, what just happened? Did one of his teeth fall out? What just happened?
and my bigger question, because I was fortunate to live across the street from the American Airlines Arena for some time, and as many of you, and it was like literally when you would look out my apartment, it was like boom,
Yep, there was.
like there was, and obviously we all know that the roof has the
for those who
iconic
don't.
plane, right?
Yeah.
So what are they going to put over the plane now, like? An FTX or like a Bitcoin? We don't know what Bitcoins look like.
Bitcoins are not real. It's not a real thing, people. Listen, if that many people were so rich off of Bitcoin, do you know how many millionaires there would be that don't exist?
If there are any listeners out there who would like to come on our show and have a discussion of Bitcoins, honestly, you know what?
I don't want a discussion. I want an explanation.
Let us know.
I just want an
Our
explanation.
motto is
That's what I'm saying.
listen,
Yes.
laugh, and
Yes,
learn.
yes. Feel free.
I've read on it several times, but I feel that the same thing happens to me when I read about Bitcoin, and then I say to myself, damn it, I went to law school. Like, I could read. I could read and interpret, right?
Mira.
At least. And then I think, lo mismo me pasa when I read about Bitcoin as when I read about the Hadron Collider.
The Hadrian Collider.
I can't even say it right.
Can't even say it.
Yeah,
Hadrian Collider.
the Collider, right? That I've like read 10 times about it. I know it has to do with the God particle, and like they want to replicate the Big Bang, the force of the Big Bang theory, like something like that. But I read it over and over again. I'm like, this is why I didn't go into science.
Mira. Bitcoin, I've tried to read articles about it. Y me pasa mi Bitcoin lo que me pasa with money laundering, which I've said it before. You can show up as a police officer at my door and accuse me of anything. You can accuse me of murder, of robbery, of kidnapping, or whatever. And I would, I didn't do it, but I'd be like, oh, okay. But if you show up and you're like, we're charging you with money laundering, I'll be like, listen, no. You have the wrong person because I don't understand how that works.
That and Medicare fraud.
Right. Yeah.
It's like Miami.
Listen, you can arrest me for anything.
Miami is like the king of the
Capital.
Yeah, capital of Medicare fraud. Everybody does Medicare fraud here. And mind you, when my grandmother gets like a standard Medicare form, I'm like,
it's
I
another
read it
language.
and I'm like,
it's a foreign language.
Yes, and I'm like,
from another planet.
Yes, and it's like so complex.
Yeah.
And like whenever I've had to call her like Medicare or whatever CMS for like a claim, I'm like, how do people even begin to do Medicare fraud?
Right.
I wouldn't even, not that I'm going to partake in fraud, but it's I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Right.
But somehow
people do it. It's just like Bitcoin.
And
the arena.
So speaking of arenas, what I thought was really interesting was, now that you said Joe Robbie, was that you still call it Joe Robbie, and I still do.
Yeah.
I call it Joe Robbie. Do you remember all the names that Joe Robbie has had?
Okay, I know I remember some of them.
Okay.
Pro Player, Dolphin Stadium, now it's the Hard Rock.
There's a few you're missing. So
help me out here.
It was Joe Robbie, and mind you, one of the things Joe Robbie,
literally the last thing he said on his deathbed, right?
Yes, Joe Robbie financed that stadium
out of his own pocket.
Yeah, out of his own pocket, and he was very adamant about it being called Joe Robbie Stadium. The man died, and the first thing they did was sell the naming rights.
Yeah.
So it was first Pro Player Park.
Okay,
and the reason why they changed the name was because it was PPP. So then they changed it to Pro Player State. It was Pro Player Park for like a year.
Okay.
Right? But then they switched to Pro Player Stadium.
So it was PPS.
And it was PPS for some time.
Okay.
Then in like the early 2000s, early like aughts, it changed to Dolphins Plural Stadium.
Okay.
Then it changed, and this was a formal name change, to Dolphin Stadium.
Did the rest of them die off?
Singular. So first it was the Dolphins, and then it was the Dolphin Stadium. Okay. And this was like a legit like name change with like a new
branding,
signage.
A whole new
yes.
everything. Okay.
Then it was Landshark Stadium for the beer.
That's right.
And that lasted for like a couple of years. And then it was Sun Life Stadium.
Oh, I always forget Sun Life.
Which is like a Canadian insurance brand.
It's not a bank?
No, it's a Canadian insurance company. Because nothing says Canadian insurance like
a stadium
in Miami,
in South Florida.
So and then Hard Rock. And I've told you, to me, the only like legitimate name other than Joe Robbie that it's had is Hard Rock, because Hard Rock, it's a familiar brand. Right. Hard Rock is very big on branding, and they completely rebuilt the stadium.
So they kind of owned it,
right? But the other ones, it's like, who the hell calls it Landshark Stadium? Oh, we're gonna go to Landshark Stadium. It's like, who the hell calls it that?
Does Landshark beer even exist anymore?
I don't even know. No, Sun Life Stadium.
So I thought it was a bank.
But as I say, at least it's not as bad as where the White Sox play in Chicago, called Guaranteed Rate Field.
Well, you know what you're getting.
Right. We're going to Guaranteed Rate Field today to go watch some, America's pastime. I mean, that's all ridiculous. Like, I think that some of these, like, naming, I mean, obviously I understand why they do it, right, but you can't expect,
it's not always going to work.
The town, the right, community to embrace such a corporate name, especially when it's like a corporate name of a corporation that has no business there.
Well, I mean, let's go back to the AAA, as it will forever be known to us. What am I supposed to call it now? FTXA?
Yes.
And what is FTX? Because that's another thing, is like, mira, todavía que tú me dijera, bueno, ahora que
They should name it Ghost Machado Ford Stadium. Like,
no, mira, you know what? I was on a similar track. I was like, ahora que, all Miami politicians tienen el peo con, Elon Musk, if they had been Tesla Stadium,
Right.
or Tesla Arena. At least it's a brand, like, people understand what it is. They know it makes, but like FTX, is that thing that the IMAX that, to have good sound?
the audience is listening to.
Right. It's just stupid.
I have to say, when I go to, back when humans used to go to movie theaters, that they would play the THX surround sound thing, I still got a little excited.
Really?
Yeah.
A
little excited.
A little thing in the middle of your...
Well, I was telling you when we were, because in our show kind of bullet points.
I.e. while we were having pizza.
I told you that I think that, like, Marlins Park has never had a corporate name. Right. I honestly think, especially since the Marlins want to be so Miami,
and they are Miami. They are very Miami. So Miami. I have to say.
I think it should be called Hopinha Stadium
or Materva Field.
Materva Field. I like that.
Something very, again, to your point, of the city.
Can you just imagine? Here we are today at Materva Field.
Materva Field.
No, can you imagine Hopinha?
Hopinha Field.
Hopinha Field.
Japina
Field. Where the Marlins are playing.
That alone would be reason enough to help them fundraise to do it.
Yeah,
just so I can see, like,
Japina.
In the World Series.
Okay, let's totally make this happen.
This is, listeners, we're gonna start a grassroots.
Okay, we said it here. To rename Marlins Park Hopinha Stadium. If only to hear these freaking white old, like, sportscaster men being Japina.
Like, what
Field?
How is it? What's that little thing on the end there?
Why is there a pineapple?
Was it
and then
it's not Hawaii.
When it's Hopinha Field, the home run feature can be a pineapple.
Of course.
Like a marlin coming out of a pineapple.
I like this.
And then, like, listen, we're laughing, but
there's an idea here.
I'm a ballpark aficionado.
That is true.
You are into marketing and branding. Listen, if you want to stand out, if Hopinha was like the official, like, drink of Marlins Park, nobody will forget that shit.
That is true. That is true.
Nobody is gonna forget that.
We're gonna have a couple conversations and see what we can do.
And then you have, like, the Hopinha skybox.
You know what, Lonico? Honestly, like, I love this idea, and let's see how we can make this happen. If it's like one of the, like, listen, people got Betty White to host SNL.
Listen, it could be the only professional sports stadium or venue that serves Hopinha.
That's true.
Do you think that Fenway Park in Boston serves Hopinha?
I'm going to say no. Call me wacky.
Do you think that Yankee Stadium serves Hopinha? No.
They probably serve cafecito, but not Hopinha.
No, not Hopinha.
Yeah. No,
I love it. And then in Marlins
honestly,
Park,
the only reason this probably would not happen is because I'm sure the Marlins are asking a hefty sum, and I mean, Hopinha is a very successful company, but I'm sure it's a hefty sum. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's within their.
And then in the roof of the stadium, they could have a huge pineapple.
I'm enjoying all of these ideas.
Right? And especially since it's near the airport, when you fly in, what's more emblematic of Miami than a pineapple?
Well, I mean, one could argue a pineapple's more emblematic of Hawaii, but yes, but I see where you're going.
No. That's that pineapple. That's Dole.
Like, oh, okay. Oh, got it. Yes.
Yeah. Dole and Dole Whip.
The Dole.
Right? That's Hawaii. I've been to Hawaii. It's true. There's Dole everywhere.
It is.
There's Dole everywhere. Pero Dole pineapple and Hopinha are not the same thing.
Very different.
Hopinha pineapples are not from Hawaii.
Hasta en la lata que viene el jugo.
Hopinha pineapples are from the freaking Caribbean. It's different.
Or Chrome. Or Chrome. Either way, it's different.
Like, I am looking at the stadium now. You change all the branding. Hopinha Field. The big pineapple on top of the roof.
And it would be Hopinha Field at Marlins Stadium.
At Marlins Stadium, yeah. And then in all the food venues, in all the food spots, there's Hopinha.
Ladies and gentlemen, we need to make this happen.
Yeah.
We will let you know how.
Let's do our homework.
We'll do our homework. We have to figure things out.
Let's approach. What is it, Kawi?
Kawi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's approach them with the idea.
Let's reach out to the people who would have to have the
And
conversation.
I think it could happen because the Marlins haven't had a corporate name.
Right.
So at this point,
Maybe they're a little flexible.
a little bit more flexible. on the
Open to
financing.
conversations.
Yes. So distinctly Miami.
Listen, and we have connections at both. That's all I'm gonna say.
Japina Field.
Japina Field. Okay. It'd be great.
So I wanted to talk about it.
Moving on,
in this episode. I really wanted to bring up on a more kind of sort of serious note. I kind of wanted to bring up the elephant in the room.
Okay, I went to the gym today.
The elephant in the room. Let's talk about the whole spring break fiasco.
Ugh.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
So there's a lot to say. There's a lot of different people to blame.
And you all have seen the footage. I mean, just spring breakers came to Miami Beach y acabaron.
Right.
I mean, that's all we have to say at this point.
What is your take on that?
First and foremost, I'm gonna take even a step back from the spring breakers. I have an issue with how this tends to get covered by the media outside of South Florida. Mm-hmm. They paint it with the oh look, Miami and Florida, Floridians, no one in Florida wears a mask type of bullshit, and it's just like no. Oye, espérate, cógelo con el take it easy, because that group of people there, those are not us Miamians. Those are all of y'all from north of the Palm Beach line, so don't come talking about how it's, Miami
or
behavior, Florida behavior.
Florida.
Pero digo, tú sabes, it's eso de otro estado, So don't come with that bullshit, okay? Because then it just feeds into your little narrative of oh, Florida, yuck, 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 fuck you. And I felt a little Lucy Lopez right now because she's very defensive of Miami, and I'm channeling her. On that note too, Again, you and I were never big, spring break, that we were never those people. It's just not who we were. But we've gone on vacation, we have partied, we've had fun, and we have never, even just from a personal, angle.
We went to a Coco Loco in Cancun.
We did. We had a great time there.
We had some.
We did have a lot of fun there. We have never
Beyonce was there.
Forget.
Beyonce was there.
Tell you otherwise.
That was Beyonce.
I mean, never mind. Prove us wrong.
Pictures.
But I would never dream. Let's put aside all the pleito and the revoltera, right? I would never dream of going somewhere and just leaving behind so much garbage and such a mess. It's to me that speaks to people's lack of courtesy, people's lack of manners, people's lack of. It doesn't translate to English, but in Spanish, educación. You don't go somewhere. Uno no hace la visita and treats it like a dump.
Well, I agree with you, but what I think is really interesting, and again, it goes with what you were saying about the media coverage, is that spring break crowds, no matter what city they're in, they're rowdy, they're destructive, they cause havoc.
Fair enough.
This has been historic, always.
This isn't the first time.
This is
it's
the
not
first
gonna be
time,
the last.
right? This just is how it's always been.
The difference is that now we see it all on social media.
We do, but my problem with the coverage, as you were saying, is that they talk about it like if this was only a Miami problem, that's only happened here. That we have out of control spring breakers here.
See, they're having a Dory from Finding Nemo moment.
I mean, that has historically been the case with spring break. That's why so many I didn't know this until now that that Fort Lauderdale was a very big hub for spring breakers. But Miami wasn't.
Right.
And one of the reasons why Miami became a hub for spring breakers was because there was a really big push to not make Fort Lauderdale a spring break destination.
Basically, you got stricter guidelines.
Right. And for all intents and purposes, it worked.
Yeah.
Right. So you can have an argument as to the pros and cons of spring break, what it can bring to the economy and whatever. But don't report this as this is the first. And yes, they were out of control. And yes, you are right. With social media now, we can see it.
Right.
Whereas before, we would only hear about it.
Or we would see it at 6 on the local news, at 11 on the local news.
But let's not pretend like this is not something that has been happening for decades.
Right.
Because that's part of I remember when I was at FIU, a certain fraternity, I'm not going to say which one, went to Cancun and they got in big trouble when they came back.
Right.
Because of the destruction, the path of destruction they had left in Cancun.
Do that. You don't go to somebody else's city and treat it like a goddamn toilet.
Right. That it became a big thing, and the school I think had to this was years ago. The school when I was in college, the school had to make some type of really statement, whatever, because the fraternity went with all their shirts and whatever. They weren't representing the school, and this has always happened. College people, on a rambunctious, trip.
They're drunk.
They're drunk. Bad decisions. I mean, for God's sake, I remember one time that it was in the news in Daytona. They set fire to a motel.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's why I get very angered of don't pretend this is a specifically Miami thing.
I think another layer to it is because this is the first spring break after COVID, and so everything in general, not just a spring break, is under a microscope of what's going on.
Yeah.
Are they wearing masks? Are they not?
But
doing
if
it?
you recall last
So
year, and we spoke about it here, the same shit happened.
That's true.
Because last year
there was less people. Because COVID was starting.
COVID was started, but all the spring breakers came down here, and they were being defiant, and then everybody was like, "Oh, look at those Miamians!" It's like, no. And let me tell you something.
Como dice Lucy Lopez, Miamians don't go to the beach because it's still too damn cold.
No, and let me tell you something about Miami and all this. And so, yes, we are going to defend Miami.
That's right.
We've been to Naples. We've been to in the last year. We've been to Naples. We've been to Cape Coral, to Tampa, and one of the things that, and I think you agree when you were there, that shocked us was that in all those places, nobody was wearing a mask. And here in Miami,
when I went up to the cabin in pockets of Georgia, by Blue Ridge and LJ and whatever, we went to a Walmart in LJ, Georgia, and there were people wearing masks, but really the only ones wearing masks, así wearing, were the Walmart employees because it's mandated, us, y de vez en cuando uno por aquí por allá.
Right.
So
exactly, because here, say what you will about Miami, but everywhere I go, I see people wearing masks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know what? F that. So take your freaking racist, reporting somewhere else, because, they love to criticize Miami and say when we're up to no good and all that stuff. But when we do something right, when we do something right, crickets, right? Because everywhere you go here, even if it's Juanito's little, cafeteria on 8th Street to get una piña, everybody wears a mask. Yeah. So,
y ahora por culpa de los spring breakers, el pobre Louis Aguirre se tenía que pasar un mes en la playa con los perros picking up garbage.
Yes. So I'm glad that we're on the same page with that, because I the coverage nationally really upset me. It really upset me. So I'm gonna turn that conversation into something else.
Okay.
It's shifting.
How? I can't wait.
So regarding South Beach.
Okay.
There was a meme that was floating around that was saying that South Beach is to Miamians Times Square is to New Yorkers.
Yeah.
I know that is true.
I know what they mean.
I
agree.
I don't personally subscribe to that. I actually do go to South Beach.
I was going to say, I agree, but it's different. I agree in the sense that I know what they're trying to communicate with the meme, but yeah, because, no New Yorker is going to be wow, let's go to that restaurant in Times Square. New Yorkers go to Times Square if they work there or if they're going to go see a show. That's it. But us will go there for a club, for a bar, for a restaurant, for the beach.
Because, for example, I love to go to South Point Park. I love to go. I think South Point Park is beautiful.
In a year and a half.
I think it's beautiful, and especially on a cooler, maybe breezy summer evening when or late afternoon when the cruises start to pass by.
Oh, yeah.
That the sun starts to set. I think it's beautiful, and that's one of those things that's oh my god, I live here. And I like to go to the beach there. I love my routine is to go to South Point Park, and South Point Park's there by Smith and Walensky. Go to the beach there. Whenever I go with Tristan, there's a splash park there.
Sick.
And then I go have lunch at the Big Pink.
The Big Pink, yes. Oh my god, I haven't been to South Beach.
And I feel that the Big Pink is not that touristy. I feel it's very local.
It's weird because if you look at it, it looks like it would be, and it should be touristy, but it's not.
Because it's that area of South Beach.
Los hoteles por ahí are not really.
But that area of South Beach, which is South Beach, literally the end of South Beach.
SoFi.
Those blocks there don't have that many hotels.
and they're like boutique hotels at that.
Yeah,
so it's
they're
like
more like little apartments and
yeah,
studios.
like 12
right.
units.
Like the hotels pass start when you get to Ocean Drive.
Yeah.
And it's true. Like, for example, Ocean Drive, I don't eat in Ocean Drive. But
you could.
But
For like una ocasión
but that is
or-
true. Like, generally, I don't eat in Ocean Drive, but I still go there. I think it's very nice. I think it's very like nobody could tell me driving by Ocean Drive with all the Art Deco buildings. Right. Nobody could tell me, oh, this isn't nice.
They
like,
could, but they'd be lying.
Huh?
They could, but they'd be lying.
It's very nice. So that's why I'm like, I'm gonna be the odd man in this.
Again, I get what they're saying with that meme, and I get it also within the context of the spring break of it all. But
Right.
but I see what you're
Right,
saying.
because another thing that I don't understand, and again, this is subject to opinion, this is very, very subjective, that I see so many times people leaving Miami to go to another beach. If you want to go to another beach to explore and see something different,
right.
that's great. But I think Miami Beach is beautiful. I think the sand is like great quality. I think the colors, like that turquoise color, is gorgeous. In the last few years, yes, there hasn't been a big problem with the seaweed. Yeah. But other than that, I think it's gorgeous. So, I mean, I don't know what people's problem is. But, I mean, obviously, you go to the beach that you want to go to. Sometimes I go to 79th Street. So there's better parking. I could go to Manolo's.
Ay, qué rico. Damn, I want to go to Manolos.
So, yeah, those shenanigans.
Oh, shenanigans. Well, you know who's not really up to any bad shenanigans, shall we say? We're closing out March now, which is Women's History Month.
I was going to say March flew, but then I said February flew and January flew.
This is just what happens after you're of a certain age. Time flies. It's Women's History Month, and I think we've made no bones about us being feminists on this podcast every once in a while. I don't know, maybe you specifically. So this episode, we actually had the really fun chance to talk to the creator of, I don't know, I guess it would be a movement, right? Like I think that's the accurate, that's the accurate way to describe it, like a movement of sorts. Latina Maid, Made, not Maid. Erica Hernandez, and it was really great because she's a Jersey Cuban. We're not going to hold that against her though. And she basically created this whole movement to change the algorithm, so that when you look up Latinas in the search engines and things like that, it's not just going to always toss back, the quote unquote stereotypical results. I can't think of the word, and I work in digital media. Results. The algorithm. Yes, thank you. So, it was kind of cool, and I think it's a great way for us to cap off, our last new episode of March, which is, Women's History Month. So, here's our interview with Erica Hernandez. Welcome back, mi gente. So, this week, we have with us the founder of really something that started off, I think, as a movement, but has really become more than that. It's become a community, a digital community in the last, I would say, couple months. We have Erica Hernandez, and that movement, community, force of nature, I guess we can call it, is Latina Maid, not Maid. That's Made, not Maid. And, we're very big on, but let me tell you about representation. And I don't think you can get more hitting the nail on the head than this as far as trying to change the way we're perceived. So thank you so much for joining us, Erica.
Well, thank you for having me. I am super honored to be here chit-chatting with you guys. This is definitely an honor. Thank you.
Oh, stop. I'm blushing. You're making me you're making me blush over here. So
I got it.
We were chatting a little bit earlier, actually. You are Cuban American as well, but you're a New Jersey Cuban. We may or may not have teased New Jersey Cubans in the past.
That's all right. I could take it.
For being the same as us, but a little different, right? So what is it that really prompted you? I mean, let's kind of start at the beginning, right? Like, what is it? At what point did you say, you know what? This is a thing I need to change, and I can be that person. What was the inspiration for the Latina Maid, not Maid?
Well, it actually wasn't a thing. It was actually a experience that I had on the web. And that was, I was invited to go and speak at Seton Hall University in New Jersey. And the theme of the speaking engagement where I was going to participate was about turning your passion into a career. For those of you who don't know, I am a brand and business developer. So I was able very early on in my career and in my life to know what my passion was and how to turn it into a career. However, this was specific to a group of Latina women. At that time, I also had an Etsy shop where I used to sell printed T-shirts and with little quotes and sayings and things like that. And Viviana, who's a close friend of mine and was leading this event, called me the night before the event, and she's like, I really think you need to wear one of your T-shirts. Like, you need to promote them. They're like empowering and this and that. And I'm like, nah. Yeah, I'm like, nah, I already got my outfit. Us women, we need to. And she was like, no, I really think you should. Just think about it. I was like, I really don't have anything Latina focused or driven. It just doesn't seem right. And she goes, just think about it. Don't worry about it. So I thought about it, and then I decided, well, let me check. And let's just, I budged. I said, okay, I'll wear a T-shirt, but I'll make one.
Okay.
That would be appropriate and fitting for the event. And I spent practically the whole night, like, thinking Latina this, Latina, like, what can I put in that would tie into the theme of the conversation? And it also had Latina on it. And then another friend of mine, Cecilia, who's a photographer and used to be a photographer for me, she was like, girl, don't stress it. How about Latina Maid? Like, and then I was like, wow. But I was like, but do you mean like Latina Maid? Like I was made by a Latina, or like, what do you mean? She goes, no, mija, Latina Maid. However you want to take it, just take it. It sounds good, And I was like, all right. So I did my due diligence and I went online just to make sure that nothing was copywritten or anything like that. And I typed Latina Maid into the search browser on Google. And when I clicked enter, I got a pretty much blank result. Other than Google suggesting that I search Latina Maid, M-A-I-D.
Oh, damn.
So I typed it in again, same thing again. And when I clicked on the image tab, what came out was an endless, abundant amount of pictures of Latina women who have played the maid role, along with, Latinas in very provocative poses, in maid costumes, porn sites, cleaning services. And by that time, it was like, what the F? I don't know if I can curse here.
You can.
Okay, I was like, what the fuck? Like, are you serious right now? But at that time, it was like already almost midnight. I was tired. I had to get ready for the next day and whatever else and still make the shirt. And I said, you know what? There's no T-shirt. I'll make the T-shirt or whatever. But it really stuck with me. Mm-hmm. It really, really stuck with me. I went the next day to the speaking engagement, did my speaking engagement. Some lady came up to me. She's like, oh my God, I love your shirt. Where can I get it? And I said, well, I just made this shirt last night. It's not available anywhere. And she was like, well, what do you mean by Latina Maid? I was like, well, I don't really have a story behind it, but I can tell you what happened to me last night. And she was like, oh my God. She's like, please make that shirt available. I love it. This and that, blah, blah, blah. So I'm driving down, if you guys are not from Jersey, the Parkway. It was bothering so much. I pulled over to the side of the road and I got on Facebook and I asked all of my friends that were following me on Facebook to please type in Latina Maid on the search browser, take a screenshot and send it to me on the comments. Put it on the comments, because I know that depending on your history, on your search history,
right.
It affects your results. So I said, before yo voy y empiezo a abrir la boca and show up at Google.
Déjame investigar primero.
Before me meto la mano, let me investigate a little. By the time I got home, everybody had the same result.
I don't know why when you say Latina Maid and you say M-A-I-D, I think of Jennifer Lopez and Maid in Manhattan. Like,
yeah.
And I bet
definitely.
That was probably the better of the results that she got when she put in Latina Maid. That was one of the more respectable.
She did come up. She definitely did come up. I was like, this is unacceptable. I said, 2017, Latinas have come a long way, entering universities at record number high and completing. We have politicians, we have lawyers, doctors, and I was just like, something has to be done, and it has to be done now. And my best friend of almost 30 years, I called her that night, and I'm like telling her on the phone what had happened to me, and I'm rambling on, and she's like, by that time, because as soon as I said, I'm doing this, I went straight home. I had a to-do list of house chores, y se jodieron.
No se limpió la casa
I went
ese día.
I went straight to the computer and I was looking up and what are the algorithms and why is this coming up and all the women that have done great things, Latinas who've done great things and this and that. Y me pasé. And I said, I'm doing something about this and I'm doing something now. So my friend, who is also the co-founder of Latina Maid, not Maid, Anna, who I've been friends with since the 6th grade, I called her because that was the person that I always called when I had a great idea because yo soy la mujer de todas las ideas. And at that time, by the time I called her, it was late. She was already in bed and I'm telling her and I'm rambling on. And she's like, Erica, please. Oh, can we talk about this tomorrow? I was like, call me tomorrow because if you don't call me tomorrow, I'm doing this with you, without you, you know? And, you know, the next morning she woke up, she was refreshed. She did her own search. She did her own thing. And she called me back and she goes, girl, as long as you don't get me in trouble. She's like, I'm with you. And that's basically how it all started. And in literally 2 weeks, we were an LLC. And then we launched our website like a month later, May 6th of 2017. And basically, we were able to change Google's algorithms within like a year and a half. We learned that, you know, algorithms are very easy to change when you know the content that you want to push out. So we started making up a bunch of T-shirts. We started recruiting all of our friends that were doctors and lawyers. We even had one that was a nanny at the time. Because I want to make it very clear, it has nothing to do with being a maid is a bad thing. It was about the stereotyping.
Right.
And then when we launched our website, it was cheesy. And I look back at it now and I cringe. But we launched it with highlighting about 20 Latinas. We're just friends and family and friends of those people who got a T-shirt from us in exchange for their story. From there, you know, I'm not going to say the rest is history because there are 12 huge search engines. And my goal before I leave this earth is to change every single one of them.
So when I first heard of the company and what you guys were doing, it really hit home for a couple of reasons. My mom, the first 8 years that she was in this country, my mom was kind of like a housekeeper. And I have like very vivid stories of sometimes I think abuse is the right word that my mom had to sustain of people at that time because she was a maid. And, you know, being a maid, as you said, it's nothing to be ashamed of because at the end of the day, it's honest work. It's honest work and it's an honest way to make a living. But as you said, you know, it's the stereotype. When I first heard of your company, one of the things I thought about in terms of that stereotype was for me in about 2015, I think it was Donald Trump, once Donald Trump had already announced his presidency. I remember Kelly Osbourne said on The View, when they were talking about Donald Trump and all the terrible things that he has said about Mexicans and all that, Kelly Osbourne said, you know, Donald Trump, you know, if you want to get all Mexicans out of here, who is going to clean your toilets? And I don't know if you guys remember that, but she got into a lot of heat over that. And the reason why that sticks out so much is because here's Kelly Osbourne, somebody who's supposed to be woke. That is what she first went to, right? That for me, I remember when she said that, I was like, wow, this is a stereotype that everybody has in the US. This is in part because of media. This is, you know, what everybody has. So I guess my question to you is, in terms of all the change that you want with this whole Latina Maid image, what possessed you to start first with the algorithm? Like, do you want to take it from there and then kind of move it more broadly up the scope into other things?
Okay, well, first I want to address what you were saying about your mom. And the reason why I want to address that is because you had a sensory reaction. It made you go back to remembering your mom and her being of service and whatnot. In the beginning, and even now, every once in a while, you know, we get people who don't know about our movement and don't know about our story and right away call us an elitist or a classist. Because when you come across our page or when you come across our Instagram and you see Latina Made Not Made, and you're not scrolling down or looking or really reading the captions, the first thing you think of is, oh, well, if we're not a college graduate and we're not doctors, we're not any good. And because I'm here on this platform, which is a platform that is public to the, open to the public, I just want to make it very clear that this has nothing to do with looking down on maids or any kind of service workers, because at the end of the day, we all are service workers.
Yeah.
In some way. If you're a doctor, you're servicing patients. If you work in a restaurant, you're servicing, so in across the line, at some point of our lives, especially in our careers, we are all service workers.
And it's honest work. It's honest work.
And it's honest work. And I always say, if when you wake up, if that is the career path of service, whether it's in a hotel, whether it's cleaning somebody's home, whether it's owning your own cleaning company, if when you wake up every morning, you are proud to do this job, more power to you. I'm right behind you. Now, going back, why was the algorithm important to us? The reason why the algorithm was important to us, because we knew it was going to be the hardest task. We knew that if we didn't go into that first, it was going to take us a lot more time. You know what I mean? We knew that as long as we pushed content, positive imagery of Latinas women doing amazing things, okay, and we associated the words Latina Made, whether they were next to each other, whether it was Made Latina, whether it's look at this amazing Latina who made this. You know what I mean? We knew the secret to the change.
Plus, I think it's probably also the most cost effective, because at the end of the day,
Right.
it's the most important, the most difficult, but it's for lack of a better word, the cheapest, because it's
right. It is. It was free.
Yeah.
And some people are like, and it's funny because like sometimes now, like when if you look at our Instagram, the first line that says is top ranked for Latina Made, and I've had people tell me, yeah, you probably paid for that. We have not paid a dime to get our number one ranking on Google. Nothing. Because if we had money to invest, we would be investing on other things, like people to contribute to our website, people to take pictures, people to do other things. So it was free. We knew what we had to do. And I think most importantly was we couldn't wait another day. Yeah, March 27th, 2017 was too late. And it was, I think, very mind-blowing to us that nobody else had picked it up. And I know for my co-founder, what I think hurt her the most was that if you put any other ethnicity, right, and then you put the word made, you don't get stereotypes. If you put Indian made, you got a bunch of rugs and textiles and pottery and this. If you put African made, you get, the wraps and the skirts and the this. But you put Latina made, and it was the stereotype. So for us, yes, like you said, I think it was number one, urgency. We couldn't let another day go by. Two, we had the secret and we knew what we needed to do to push it out. And that was that.
I'm glad you said the whole thing about the elitist thing, because I think somebody who comes at you and says, oh, you're being elitist, is missing the point. Because that's like, for example, the stereotype that the stereotype that people that are Indian are doctors. Doctors are doctors, right? Everybody looks up to doctors. And I'm sure that people that are Indian are sick and tired of, the world thinking that is what they need to be. Whoever is saying that you're elitist and all that is missing the point, because, there's stereotypes, these stereotypes of, different types of people, whether it be a professional or, a service job, is very confining, and it's all about putting people in a box. Do you guys have, now that, you're working on all these algorithms in terms of the major 12 search engines, which is interesting. I didn't realize there were still so many.
Three. I'm like Google, MSN, Gmail.
Listen, let me. This is the way I'm going to put it, okay? Latinas are all over the world. Understand that, Google is number one in the United States.
Right.
So the top 12, now we're looking at it globally. It's not nationally. Mm-hmm. So wherever there is a Latina, we need to make sure that they're being seen, and that they're being seen in the light that they deserve.
Do you guys have some type of, aside from, the algorithm, some type of a goal or or plan in terms of media, whether it be print media or TV media, since, the visual side of it has so much to do with it?
Right. Yes, we have a lot of goals that we really want to accomplish and achieve. I think that for me personally, one of my biggest goals is to become a huge digital media publication, a resource and a community digital space where Latinas can come and be able to read content and that is relatable to them. So that is the goal right now, is to have that, community or that publication digitally. Let's be real, who reads right now? And who watches TV? But yeah, our goal is to be able to be that platform. And even though it's amazing to see how many pro-Latina platforms there are now, we I don't want to sound cocky, but we were
be cocky. Do it.
We were one of the first ones. When we launched back in 2003, I think we only had Me Too, Pero Like, and Remezcla.
Yeah, actually, that's about it.
And we launched, and I'm not saying this because people misconstrued. I know that the Me Too movement was founded years ago, but the Me Too movement did not kick off, like the real hardcore movement kicked off in October of 2017. Mm-hmm. So we were in the midst of all of that. Yeah. That movement also helped us because now women are saying, like, me too, and we need a space and a place to go and our stories to be heard and for us to be seen, you know what I mean? But, the goal ultimately is to, partner with brands that are, have the same representation or stands for the same things. Our goal is to really build a huge digital community. But this is really a passion project because we're passionate about our mujeres, and we're passionate about being represented in the correct light.
Now, on that note, I know that you are starting a scholarship fund. Is that?
No, we have actually always, the scholarship fund was something that we've always had from the very beginning. Like, even when we launched, the scholarship fund was there. It's been there. And the reason for the scholarship fund is only we decided to do the scholarship fund because myself as well as Anna at that time, I unfortunately lost my job back in August due to COVID, but we've always had a full-time income. So when we decided to start selling the shirts, because we saw the demand for it, because remember, when we launched the website with these 20 women, we gave them the shirts in exchange for their store.
Right.
So when we started posting these pictures of these shirts and people coming across and, and things like that, when there started to be a demand for the shirts, we said, okay, let's start selling the shirts. And when we started selling the shirts, both of us were in a position economically where we didn't need the money. Mm-hmm. So the portion of the proceeds would go to the scholarship. Now, like with every other business, we were selling shirts for like the first 2 years. That's the only thing. One shirt in 2 colors.
We can relate.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, we have been fortunate in the 3 years, which we wish we could do so much more. We've been fortunate in the 3 years to already have awarded a scholarship.
So I'm every time people are so driven, I'm always curious, like, what's their inspiration behind it? So who are some of like the Latinas or just women in general that have inspired you?
I'm going to be honest. I really have never looked up to any Latina celebrity, keeping it real. I mean, I can say, yeah, I used to like Iris Chacon when I was little.
Wow.
Or I used to like,
I was not expecting that answer.
I love Celia Cruz. I mean, she is like, I when I was little, I really thought that she was my grandma because my real grandmother from my dad's side looked a lot like her, and I was like, I think this lady is Celia Cruz and she's lying to us,
Well, she also lived in Jersey. Maybe she was.
And she also lived in Jersey. So for me, for a very long time when I was little, I always looked at my grandmother and I'm like, could she,
Because I was going to say, when Ish said that about Jersey, I was going to say what you will about Cubans from Jersey, they had Celia Cruz. We didn't.
Yes.
down here in
Yes,
Miami.
yes.
So they win.
I enjoyed watching Betty La Fea and, and things. But for me to say, well, somebody really inspired me to be the way I am, for me, it's the incredible women, my mom and my grandmother that I've had in my life. My grandmother came to this country in the 1960s, like many of us Cuban Americans. Family members, abuelas did. She worked her ass off. She was there for me the first 12 years of my life. My mom was a single mom, and my grandma raised me, and I never needed and wanted for anything. Now, when it comes to the advocacy side of me being like pro, it really comes from within. It's me. A mí me dicen, tú eres fuerte de carácter, or, I'm like, I'm the fuerte de carácter, the this, the that, whatever. But deep down inside, I care about people. And deep down inside, I care about doing the right thing. And if I feel at any moment, whether you are Latina, Asian, Black, Indian, whatever you are, if I feel that people are not being treated fairly, I will speak up. We have so much to offer the world. We shouldn't be seeing, I see it as, women as it is in a man's world is tough enough. And then adding the fact that you're Latina.
Another layer.
Another layer. And then, the rest of the world that is non-Latino thinks of you as, a landscaper or a maid or a nanny or this. It kind of like, when are we ever going to win? How long, and this election is a perfect example. And I know that this election was more general towards all Latinas, but for how long have we been yelling that we are not monolith? For how long?
Yeah.
For years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
exactly.
60, 80, 100 years later. Wow. But,
right.
Wow, Latinos are not all the same.
Yeah, and then, you hear on the news station, the Latino vote is not a monolithic vote. It's like, no shit, Sherlock.
We've been saying this for years.
Not a monolithic culture either, kids.
But I think that comes
from... you can call me if you want to have that conversation.
Well, now we know. But I think that comes from the much larger issue of how here in the United States or American culture have tried to box Latin America and down, including the Caribbean, and even Spanish, even Spain, as Latin or Hispanic, and that's it.
Don't touch that subject, please, because we're gonna go into a whole other.
No, and that's something that's always bothered me, because it's like Latin America has so many rich cultures. Mexican culture is so rich and complex. Versus Caribbean culture and versus other countries. Like every country has their own culture. And we're literally painted with one stroke. Mm-hmm. So then when other people are like, oh, you're not, it's like, oh my God, it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
That's a little limited. But Erica, I want to, I want to wrap it up because I know you've got stuff going on. But I want to thank you for joining us. Again, it's so important for us in terms of just representation and like you were saying, we're not a monolith, but we do have some commonalities, and together we can try to break those stereotypes. And I think that's so important with what you're doing with Latina Maid, MADE, not MAID.com. And I know they can follow you on Instagram. They can visit your website, buy your t-shirts so that they can help fund the scholarship. Because I know you said you're like, well, I wish you could do more, but you know what? Every little bit helps. I mean, it's like when you're building a house, there's brick by brick, everything, gets put together and is part of the bigger whole. And you definitely are part of that. And thank you so much.
Well, I want to plug in that we do take donations. So if anybody wants to donate, they can do that through our website.
Listen, so there's no excuses, guys. There's no excuses not to contribute.
There's no excuses, yeah.
They've got cute t-shirts. If you're not in the mood for a t-shirt, you can donate. You can help spread the word.
So tell us, our audience, where to find you, all the different platforms.
So on the web, it's latinamaid.com. We are also on Instagram. Instagram is the biggest social media platform that we have. So again, at latinamaidnotmaid.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. However, on Twitter, it's Latina Maid and then N and then M. So Latina Maid and M, because, Twitter only allows you a certain amount of characters. And hopefully soon, within the next 30 to 45 days, we will be launching our podcast, Sin Límites.
Nice.
All right.
Well, then let me be one of the first to welcome you to the podcast family.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually now in the process of thinking of the topics, because I don't want to do things that are repetitive and everybody else has done. And
I love the work you guys are doing. I'm tremendo feminist. I really am, and that'll make a good T-shirt. Tremendo feminist.
I should. Oh, that's really good. Yeah, but it's funny. It's funny that you say that, but it's true. One of the things that I always try to look for is male partners. We need more men to stand by our allies. I only have 9% on Instagram of men, but those are die hardcore Latina made, not made.
Well, now you have more.
And we need more. Because when you guys say, enough is enough for our Latina women and stop stereotyping them, and they deserve more respect and they deserve a better place, then is when will be easier for us to move forward. So we need men. So men, let's go.
Step it up, guys. Well, Erica, thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you guys.
Fantastic,
it was so much fun.
And can't wait to actually meet in person now that you're down here in South Florida.
Yes. Let's plan it. Let's do it.
And we're back.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from the interview is how, she was saying it's not about saying that being a maid is a bad thing.
Right.
It's not about having shame in being a maid. There is no shame in that. There is no shame in earning an honest living. However, it is about taking back the narrative. So that it's not just, oh, Latina maid. Did you mean maid, MID? And then here's pictures of, women in sexy poses in a French maid uniform or whatever.
I was thinking of Maid in Manhattan.
You always think of Maid in Manhattan.
Yeah. I'll never forget when that movie was in production, the original name was The Chambermaid. And I'll never forget that I mentioned to you, they changed the name to Maid in Manhattan. You're like, yeah, because most people are not going to know what a chambermaid is.
They're not going to know what a chambermaid is. They're not. Listen, people are going to have a hard enough time with stadium or arena or whatever the hell it's called.
You mean with Japinna?
With Japinna Stadium, yes. Japinna Stadium's going to be enough.
Okay, that this is happening, right? In my mind, now I'm thinking of Marlins Park, and I'm thinking it with a pineapple on top.
You're already picturing us there at, the naming ceremony.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
It's happening, and we're interviewing them when they.
Oh, we're going to record live from there.
Yes.
Clearly.
Live at Hopinia
Ballpark, of course.
Wow. Dreams can come true. It will be listen, this is built on the former site of the Miami of the Orange Bowl, which is Miami, hollow ground.
Very Miami.
What is more Miami than the Hurricanes, the Orange Bowl, and Hopinia?
The only thing more Miami than that is if they would call it, Cuban Bread Stadium.
Martha of Miami can have a whole line of shirts.
The thing is that nobody owns the trademark for Cuban bread, so there's no owner to go to.
Right.
That's the only problem with that.
Yeah. Well, Anyway.
Well, all this talk about naming
has made me parched.
Has made you parched and me as well. So, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
All right.
So, I want to give my last soda this week to Justin Herron. So, he plays for the New England Patriots, and he was literally a hero this past week. So I wanted to give him a shout out. So he was in Arizona, and he was in a park, and he heard this woman screaming, and it was an older woman in her 70s, and she was being sexually attacked. And this man had already taken off his pants or was trying to take off her pants.
It was going to happen.
Yeah, it was going to happen.
Right.
And he jumped in. He's a linebacker. He's 6'5", 300 pounds.
Okay.
And he took control of the situation.
Yes, he did, I'm sure.
Needless to say. But he actually saved this woman. And he was able to not only save her, and then he brought attention. I think he was with a friend. The man was, they were taking care of that, calling the police,
detained the man,
comforting her, and he detained the guy.
Damn.
So I was like, shit, like he could have completely like, okay, I didn't see that and just go on his way because he is a public figure.
Or let the guy escape. You know, just
and
you don't know he had a gun
he did what he needed to do. So at the very minimum, he deserved a last soda. So my last soda goes to him.
Well, damn. All right. Well, mine's gonna seem a little silly now, but I'm giving mine to a documentary that I told you to watch, and I don't think you've watched yet because you've been very busy.
For Britney Spears?
No.
The college admission scandal?
Nope.
Oh shit, we needed to talk about that. Okay, go ahead.
Kid 90.
I have not seen Kid 90.
Kid 90, for those who don't know, is a documentary on Hulu it was put together really by Soleil Moonfry, Punky Brewster, and yes, this is the second time that I refer to Punky Brewster in our last soda. But what I loved about it is that she essentially, throughout her entire teen years, through her the 90s and maybe beyond, would take a video camera with her everywhere she went, and a photo camera as well, and she has footage of like all these Hollywood actors as like little like 12-year-olds or whatever, and these are still her friends to this day. And she put it together to show like a little slice of her life growing up, and there's a whole narrative or what have you. But one of the real reasons that I'm actually giving this last soda to Kid 90 is because of the wave of nostalgia that it gave me for basically
Pocket Rockets.
No, because I don't need a vibrator.
No wait. What was the name of the little tape? I think it was...
No, it wasn't Pocket Rockets. Pocket Rockets are vibrators. I know what you're talking about, but that's not what it was. Actually, it gave me nostalgia, and it really just made me start thinking about us, actually. Because throughout, we grew up essentially the same time frame as Soleil Moonfry. You and some of our other friends would always have either a video camera or a photo camera, and, our teen years, our 90s.
It's Pocket Rockers.
Pocket Rockers. Okay, there you go. I'm like, I know the Pocket Rocket. I know that much. Like my teenage years are so well documented because of you.
You're welcome.
So and at the time, it's funny, even to this day, we still mock you. But at the time, it was just like, oh, we're taking another picture. But now, as I'm sitting there watching that documentary, it's kind of like, and Jose was like, I can't believe she kept all that. Who keeps all that? And I'm like, I know like several people who do, and I'm thankful that they did.
Yeah. I mean, now with camera phones, it's a different story.
It's not the same.
But I used to carry a camera everywhere. When we would go out in high school, and we would go out to the movies. To like Denny's, I would take my camera. Yeah. And I would take my big camera, like with the big lens.
Or if you didn't, you would have a disposable.
And then then I had like disposables. Then like in the like early 2000s, I had like the little pocket cameras. Like the
little digital
shooting whatever, the
point
little
shoots.
Point shoots, right. I have our lives documented. Yeah. Yeah. I've been, another thing, I have been taking pictures of food
since forever.
Before people even thought about doing that. Like, I have pictures of restaurants that don't exist anymore, of food that doesn't, like, entrees that don't exist anymore. Like, I have like a whole collection of like different entrees from Bahama Breeze that don't exist anymore.
I'm sure there's a lot of pictures of the Monte Cristo.
From Bennigan's? I have pictures from Bennigan's.
I'm sure.
Too. Yeah.
But yeah, so, Kid 90, because it's a great documentary and it's fun and whatever, but also just because it gave me the feels, and I want, and thank you for capturing my youth.
Yes, you're welcome. It's funny. I thank you for the acknowledgement, but I've always said it in jest because you guys give me some shit
we still do.
For all like my, picture taking, is that I've always told you, I'm like, one day, one of you is going to come to me and you're going to be like, listen, I need pictures of X, whatever. Yeah. And I'll be like, well, let me go into my digital archive. What exactly do you need? Do you need your 15th birthday, your 16th birthday, your 17th birthday, your 18th birthday? So on and so forth. So
again, and it is something that we've said it before, but there's something to be said for, the having the tangible photos versus the digital photos now.
There is,
which is why I think her documentary resonated even more, because
there is. But I think that I haven't seen the documentary, but based on what you're telling me, what makes those things special is the theory that I've always subscribed to in terms of why I like taking pictures, which is the everyday life. Why? Because most people take pictures in special occasions. In a birthday, in a wedding,
Right.
in a graduation, in a special
holiday,
occasion of
right.
sorts, in a holiday. And that's fine, and that's great. But what I think is really interesting is when you take pictures of like everyday things, because those are the things that later in life you miss the most.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a picture of you in the supermarket, because then you look at that picture and you're
Oh
like,
my God, you're reading my mind. Because
Yeah.
I was like, that is one of my favorite pictures of me and Ingrid.
yeah, like exactly, like look at the bottles, like they're different now, and like look at the signage, it's different, and all that. Or
It really transports you to a moment.
yes, it does, and it's like those everyday like moments that nobody, especially before the age of camera phones, nobody really thought about photographing, that I always like was very like in tune with. And I'm like, you know, this is like a random day that we're gonna go to Denny's and hang out, but there's gonna be a day where this is gonna be 20 years later that we're gonna think about this moment, and I have pictures of it.
Yeah. And you certainly do.
So I gotta watch it now. But
Yes, yes.
anyway, well, we hope everybody listened, laughed, and learned. In our next episode, we will be giving directions as to I guess
The next
petition,
steps, the next steps.
the petition
Yeah.
to get. We need to make this happen.
We'll figure it out.
We know some elected officials, you know,
This
sort
is
of.
true. We know that. Look, I know someone at the Marlins. We know someone who knows someone at Cowie. You know, you're all Democrat-y now.
Yeah, so we can make this happen. Jupiña Field or ballpark. I'm fine with either one.
But the name.
Jupiña Field. This needs to happen. So we hope everybody listen, laughed, and learned. Remember to grab your pastelito, your pastelito, your croqueta, and your cafecito. And thank you for joining us, everybody. That was episode 149. Thank you so much.
Cuídense, mi gente. Bye.
Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lomlaplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.